everything that Eric does, because he is one very busy man. We met as part of a mastermind group, and it was just a weekly call, basically. First thing in the morning for me, so roles reversed a little bit tonight. And he was a big part of starting my business and supporting me, and I have just seen him grow from strength to strength. And he also started his podcast, The Subscription Box, at the same time Personal Branding Exposed started, but I think we're on about episode 33 here tonight. And you're on, what episode are you on, Eric?
Yesterday was episode 118.
Yeah, so he's a little bit ahead, just a little bit. So Eric, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So Eric, talk to us a little bit about what you were doing in high school. You didn't think, I'm going to have a podcast and a subscription box business. And you also have a wedding business as well, which is obviously not as big at the moment because of COVID. But what was 15-year-old Eric thinking he was going to do?
Oh my goodness. I just want to have some kind of job where I can pay my bills. That's probably what I was thinking. Yeah, I've never been asked that. That's a great question, because I think if I'm not your typical entrepreneur, for those who might have heard my story, it's not those typical, I grew up having the lemonade stands and that kind of thing. I just wanted to have a job where I could pay some bills. I was that ambitious. That's where my level was. But yeah, I would have to say, man, my 15-year-old self would say, this is crazy. I could have never predicted what has happened to me now, I guess. So.
That's interesting you say that, because when I hear entrepreneur, I often think, well, that's not me, because I didn't have baseball stickers that I was selling, lemonade stand, etc. But at one point, my mum thought I was going to leave university and not finish because I preferred working. I just preferred making money. I love learning, don't get me wrong, but being confined to a desk and having to write reports and stuff wasn't my idea of fun, but I liked working.
Yeah, same. I grew up on a farm, so I was super blue collar. I actually quit high school. I actually quit college after. So I mean, I'm a born kind of like a quitter. That's how my trajectory was going for the longest time. And then I did go back to high school to finish. I figured, I could at least do that. And then I did go to college for 1 year, but I did quit that as well. And I went back to working into a farm. That was my trajectory, literally was, and nothing against farm thing. It's just, that's where my head was at. And then it took, what I was actually was an MLM. I was introduced to an MLM of all things. And I'm not going to get into the weeds into that, but what it did introduce me to, that did not work out. I also quit that. So what it did do, Megan, is that introduced me to books and personal development and that kind of thing. And it was one of those books, I think the first one I remember reading that really stuck was The Magic of Thinking Big. And that one was a book that opened my eyes to a whole new world of like, oh my goodness, I was never taught this stuff. Like, what is this world, right? But then I quit that too and went back to working another job for 15 years. So again, I don't have the normal trajectory of most people.
I think that's really important though, because you just don't know what you like until you give a load of things a try.
Oh, 100%. And I'm older in my career now. I'm 39 as we're doing this. So I think some people are late bloomers. I always consider myself a late bloomer, and that's okay. You don't have to be that young whippersnapper go-getter right at 20. If it comes later on in life and you just have to go through some stuff before, that's fine, because that's my type. That's where learning from the school of hard knocks was kind of the way I had to do it.
Yeah, and like you said, there's no one size fits all. And there's a few posts that go around on social media about when the guy Kentucky Fried Chicken, when that actually started. A lot of these very successful businessmen, they didn't start until they were in their 40s, 50s, 60s. So,
Yeah,
I mean, never too late.
I think KFC was in his retirement age, right? He was like in his 50s or 60s, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you're totally right. There's no normal path to it. Now, if we go back to, we kind of touched on school. You weren't exactly a classic student, I guess, staying in and studying hard. And you've gone into MLM and you've kind of decided that's not for you, which I don't blame you. A lot of people are very anti it, though I know a lot of people have a lot of success in it as well. But I think it's a bit like sales. And, our mutual friend of ours, Travis Chappell, who was a door salesman, and, he really goes hard on teaching you some of this like lessons that he got from that, which is another job, a bit like a car salesman. We don't like them. We don't like salespeople. We don't like MLM. We like to be like down on them. But some of the skills and the lessons you get are massive.
Yeah, 100%. You know what? I'm not going to speak ill of it. It did not work out for me, right? But I learned a couple of things, like self-development was one thing, but pushing yourself out of your comfort zone was a massive thing. Because I put it this way, when I was in high school, going back there for a second, I remember my teacher said, you had to present something in class. You know what I would say? I would literally say, no, fail me instead. And she would be like, get up and just do your thing. I'm like, no, fail me. I was that shy. I would not get in front of the class, my own classmates. And this is a small town I grew up in. It's the same 28 people for the last 16 years we've been together. So for me to say that, right, it was that's where I came from, but it pushed me to get in front of people and get me on stage and talk about my story or whatever. So those were things that I took away for sure. Was the business books, the business lessons, and the people were fantastic. But the business model was not for me. Eventually, I did get into more traditional entrepreneurship. So.
Yeah, 100%. And you not public speaking. Well, I suppose when you're at school, you don't think of it as public speaking. But I can't imagine you, the person I know now, who is the podcast host, being so shy that you wouldn't get in front of the class.
Fail me. That's it. Yeah.
What shows you when it's your own business, though, the things that you will do that you wouldn't do otherwise?
Yeah, I think so too. I think no one cares as much about your business as you do. And I think when things push comes to shove and you got to make this thing work, you're going to do whatever it takes. And I think it's good. I mean, it's good to push yourself out of your comfort limits and whatever that looks like. It might be eventually leaving that job. You've been doing that side hustle for a long time. And eventually, like in our case, you're able to step out and do whatever you're doing full time. And that's super uncomfortable because it's not the safe, route we're taught to do is to, stay in that same job. And I could have coasted probably with that job, right? That was that for 15 years, which was in communications. It was great. It paid the bills. It built our dream life here in our rural Canadian home. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. I always had this itch of not entrepreneurship so much, but an itch of doing something with like living a life of no regret, doing something that I was excited to do every morning, not just because it paid the bills. And that's eventually what got us out of that. You need to have that why, I guess, right? What is it? What's that thing that gets you up in the morning, that gets you excited? And for me, it was to do something that was mine, not someone else's.
So what was the first business that you started?
The first business we started would have been the wedding line business. So the wedding line business was something we were able to do while working full time. So, and introduce us just to like business basics as well, I guess, when it comes to like bookkeeping and just running some numbers. So the wedding line business, what that is very quickly, Christine's a graphic designer, my wife, Christine, we worked together. She created a wedding line and she built these things with her father. Or you can, in Canada, I don't know how it is in Australia, Megan, but rural weddings are very popular, especially here in central Canada. So people rent these beautiful outdoor venues or these beautiful, even indoor venues, but you can rent these items from us. And the great thing is what we store it in the shed outside. People come and pick them up and then bring them to their wedding venue, whatever that looks like. They do the decor themselves. They place all these beautiful items and then they return them. So it's kind of like a hands-off kind of a business. We just have to make sure damage deposits are taken care of, that sort of thing. So that was the first business.
Okay, and then what came next after that? That was your subscription box.
The subscription box, yeah. So this was only launched 2 years ago. So December of 2019, we launched our main bread and butter. This is what we do full time now, is our subscription box business, which is called Louis and Leia.
Which you have to go and check out because they are absolutely beautiful. And Eric's wife, Christine, is an amazing graphic designer, which I didn't realize was his wife when we first met virtually. But she is a fantastic graphic designer. The stuff that comes out, your social media, like I don't have kids and I am like, oh, I should really get this box. It looks so good.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic. She does all the design work. Thank goodness, because if you ever look into the cost of graphic designers, they're pretty expensive if you want to just kind of get them freelance. But a good one will cost you good money. So you get what you pay for, I guess. No, she does fantastic work there. And Louis and Leia is what it is, like the whole brand, because of Christine, no doubt.
Yeah, and also you have got 4 boys, and you're actually expecting your fifth child at the moment. So
Yeah.
it's obviously a passion. Like, you're big family people.
Oh, 100%. This is what we do. Like we live it. Like it's not just like something we thought it was a good idea, which it was, but it came out of like most businesses and entrepreneurs. Now, if I think of myself as an entrepreneur, it's from something that comes from a pain point, something that, you think you could fix and do better than something that's out there. And to our amazement, subscription boxes was never really a thing until we saw it on Dragon's Den, which is like your Shark Tank
Yep.
equivalent, right? And we saw these, it was called Meow Box. And I was like, oh, this is a cool subscription model. So we were expecting number 4, and we were looking at an idea for like mom and babies and stuff. And there wasn't really anything out there. There was pregnancy boxes, but nothing quality that we wanted, like eco and kind of the things we now implement with our own subscription box. So that's how it actually all started, right? Was something that we live, that we wanted to do better. That's already sort of out there, but not really exactly how we've niched it down. So that's Louie and Leia's birth, if you want.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I've only known you for about 18 months, so probably about 6 months into your journey, and your family just oozes out of this business. Like, you just let everyone in. You can see how it's actually impacting you, and how Christina uses these items as well through, she gives this, like, I love stories. I think stories are just worth their weight in gold. The stories of how she needed the different pieces and how she's decided on what goes in the box because of needs that you've had through your own experiences, which I think is massive. Like, I love that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you always have to be ready to change as well, because since we launched, a lot of things have changed. Like, for example, we launched with a quarterly subscription to celebrate the milestones. So you're 0 to 3, 3 to 6, right? And now we've actually moved, just having conversations. We're moving like to the next phase, because with COVID, it's kind of changed everything. And people are like, oh, this must be great for you guys. What just you guys struck the jackpot. And we're like, no, actually, because now what happens is that all the big players are also selling more online. So they're taking up all that ad space. So it's just costing us more, and it's just getting actually harder to get noticed online. It's harder to get visible because everyone is online. And it's probably the same thing for personal branding, for personal coaches. Everyone's just in that same space now. It's just got more crowded, right? So,
100%.
Yeah. So it's presented different challenges. So we've kind of pivoted with a monthly box, and we still absolutely offer the quarterly box, but the monthly box now celebrates local artisans and makers. So actually everything, for example, in the brand new February box, the first one we're launching, is handmade. Every single thing in there is handmade products by local business owners to help them and kind of support each other. But also we're using each other as personal brands to also kind of cross promote and collaborate.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right, because when I started talking about personal branding about 18 months ago, and my business is really only about a year old when I've actually been in it full time, most people didn't know what personal branding was. Nobody was interested. Now everybody's talking about it because we have moved to a digital world. And if you don't have a personal brand or some sort of presence online, you disappear very, very quickly.
100%. And I think there's multiple ways to do that. Podcasts, different ways to kind of get noticed, right? Which, of course, I also do.
Yes, and that's what I want to talk about, is the fact that you are the subscription box man. Now, I know that you say, no, I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure after over 100 episodes, you are, I would class you as an expert, because you are talking to some big players in the subscription box industry. Tell me, what made you go into podcasting? Why did you decide that was going to be the medium you'd go down?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's hard to answer, actually, because I think when we first got into it together, right, it was through a mastermind. I love listening to podcasts just as a medium to learn. So actually, when we were getting ready to launch Louie and Leia back, so let's go back into that February of 2018, and just doing research on the industry and stuff, there wasn't really much out there when it came to podcasts. Podcasts back then probably only had 600,000 shows. Of those, not many. There was like the Box Biz by a mutual friend of mine, Steve Krakauer, which he didn't have that many episodes. So I listened to all his episodes. There was Subscription School by Cratejoy, some things online, but there wasn't really many podcasts really dedicated. So I love a podcast called Entrepreneurs on Fire with John Lee Dumas. And I actually reached out to him, of all things, very naively, I must say, because he's kind of a big deal. And I was like, I just emailed him, and he actually responded to me. I said, I want you to coach me personally. Like, I'll pay you whatever, just coach me. And he was like, no, but maybe try my friend Travis Chappell. I've coached him, and he'll teach you everything that I know, kind of thing. one of those kind of things, right? So he passed me on to Travis. I had never heard of Travis Chappell, so I started listening to his show. Really liked it. It was about networking and the power of networking. So building relationships the right way, those kind of things. So I really got into his podcast, reached out to him, and he offered a VIP podcasting course, which I took. So Canadian country boy, flew to Vegas a couple times to do his course, and then his Build Your Network Live event. And that was great. I met a lot of people, and that kind of like took off. I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be that voice in the subscription space, and I'm going to start a podcast to help other subscription entrepreneurs that are looking to start. And that was the whole premise. And it's still to this day, the premise of the show is to help other people start their own subscription box. And I have people now in Iceland and Australia and Egypt listening to the show. Literally, I think we're on every single continent. People listen to the podcast that are starting their own subscription boxes. And the great thing is, Megan, I don't have to be the expert, because I'm not. I'm still not. I just interview the experts. And like you mentioned before, over 100 episodes now with like some of the world's biggest subscription boxes. And they get on the show and they talk about their story, how they grew their own business. And people can listen to that and learn through them, not through me. I'm just the conduit to the experts.
Congratulations. That's massive. Like, to be that wide, like to be that global. But I think that's, well, it's credit to you, because I think you do a great job at interviewing. I listen to a lot of your episodes. I'm actually, I'm sponsoring a couple of your episodes, because I actually have that much faith in it. I just think it's a really great show. I think that you've got a great audience. I think that you're building something amazing. And I'm so happy to be supporting that. So that's fantastic. Congratulations. I'm so chuffed for you. I think that's really brilliant.
Thank you.
But just to talk about a little bit more about that, you are talking to experts and you're kind of gleaning some information from them as well. But I think what I really love about your show is the stories, because there are subscription boxes out there I didn't even know existed. Like, what was the one I saw the other day? Stickers? Like, someone sends you stickers every month or something. Like, it's incredible.
It's incredible for such a big industry. It's a niche industry, but it's also a massive one. And especially if you start integrating actually what subscriptions as a service are, right? Like, you start thinking about Netflix, Spotify, some of the big players that everyone knows what subscriptions are, right? So if you look at subscriptions as an industry, it's huge. But if you just want to really niche it down to subscription box, that itself is a massive industry. Like, you think of the Bark Boxes of the world and FabFitFun and some of these big players. But then you can also get down to mom and pop shops, like small ones like Louie and Leia and Marshmallow Clubs. And like, people are like, what is boxes? Like, you can literally, I challenge anyone to always do this. Think of your niche thing that you're into, whatever your what do you call it? Your side hustle or whatever you like doing on the side. Google it, and you're going to find a subscription box for it. For example, I had a friend of mine who's he's studying to be to fly planes and a pilot. It's early here, so then he's like, do you think there's really subscription box for pilots? I'm like, I don't know, probably. So we Googled it. Sure enough, there was like this aviation box or whatever. So I mean, there's literally something for everyone. And
if it doesn't exist, why don't you get in there and create it?
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those things you don't have to go all in at the start. You can just build it slowly, keep working your job, you kind of burn the candle at both ends, and eventually maybe take it full time. No question, you can do it.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think, we talk about this quite a lot, especially in our mastermind. We were talking about it, the importance of having a niche, and, you don't want to niche too soon. And you are testament to that as well. You've tried lots of different things until you found what works for you as well. But the power of a niche is something incredible. And I think when you look at the subscription box industry, you don't get many more industries that show that many examples of how you can actually build very successful businesses on tiny little niches that most people would think nobody wants that.
Yeah, there's an incredible one. Actually, she's in our Facebook group. Her name is Seda Farrell, and I think she's the most niche I've ever heard of, and she's got a rocking business now. She was like an editor's pick for Crate Joy. For those who don't know, you've never heard of Crate Joy, it's one of the big four when you're talking about subscription website platforms, and it's a marshmallow club. So I'm going to be reaching out to her because I want her on the show as well, because how a marshmallow is like, what?
Well, it's good because you Canadians love your schmores, which I'd never heard of until my new Canadian family told me about that.
Yeah, those are unbelievable. Do you guys have a lot of bonfires in Australia?
No, and we actually have fire bans here quite a lot as well because
Makes
so
sense.
dry and then the heat. But we have a little fire in the backyard, and that's how I've had my s'mores because Stefan makes them for me there.
Yeah, it's
They're
what you do around
delicious.
fires. That's right. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so that's a pretty major niche that you've got there. Now, what is next for you, Eric?
Um, that's a great question. I think it's just keep growing the monthly. Right now, we're really focused on the monthly. The quarterly is doing great. We're that's gonna kind of do its own thing. So it's just working on the monthly, getting noticed, collaborating with local entrepreneurs. We're hoping things open up here. We're still in code red here in central Canada. So things can open up. I want to get into more trade shows as well and farmers markets and just kind of like grow locally. So this one we're gonna kind of start differently. The first box we started like Canada, US, and really focused on the American market. And this one now with everything going on, like I said, we really focused in and we're kind of just refocusing our attention on the local market. And we want to be the local experts first because there's too many people around here in our own town. Like our town has 1,100 people, and I'd venture to say probably, and we know everyone in town, but I'd venture to say probably most people don't even know what we do. We'll go to the grocery store and they're like, "You guys do this like full time? What is this? What is this subscription box?" So we really kind of want to get the word out locally. I think that's our focus for 2021 is growing and collaborating with local artisans and just local people just to know what is subscription boxes and what it is. Louis and Leia.
That's fantastic. Love that. I also love the local feel to it because I actually had this conversation this morning with my business coach about how, we're feeling a little bit trapped because we're stuck in, code red or zone A or whatever it is in your country or your town. Western Australia, we're obviously wide open, but we can't get in or out. That, the world felt very small a year ago or 18 months ago. Like, we could be anywhere tomorrow if we really wanted to. If you had the money and could buy a flight, you could get to the other side easy. Whereas now we're not. And I think more and more people are shopping local, are supporting local, are appreciating what's in their backyard a little bit more. So it's a great time to be actually focusing there. And I love that your subscription box is now not just about promoting it and selling it to your local community, but you're actually supporting it as well with bits and pieces that are created and built in your community as well, which is lovely.
Yeah, and it's just COVID trends, I call them, right? It's one of those things where it came out of that, and I think it's important that to refocus on that. And I think now, like we were talking about earlier, about how hard it is to get noticed. Like you can have the greatest product online, whether it's your program or if it's our subscription box, but if no one knows about it, what's the point? So I think I always get asked, like, how can you get noticed more organically? Like Facebook ads costs have risen; it's hard to get through to that. If you're into Google ads and you want to search, like your clicks could be $2-3 a click. Like it's expensive to get noticed. So there's so many different avenues. We get asked all the time, like, well, how do you grow organically? I think one of those easiest ways is just to partner and collab with other companies that are in the same boat as you that don't have the big marketing budgets that these big companies do, but you do have Instagram and Facebook accounts where you can kind of like feed off of each other and help get noticed that way. And I think, again, growing kind of like in and then expanding outwards is a great way to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, word of mouth is always king. So any way that you can actually start chipping away and getting people to talk about you, that's always going to be your cheapest and your easiest way to market as well.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. So you've also got your Facebook group that is for anyone with a subscription box, and you're on Instagram. We've talked a bit about that, and I know you're on LinkedIn because we're connected there, and that's my favorite place to be. How else can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I think we have a couple of Facebook groups for the subscription box show, like the podcast. It's just search the subscription box show Facebook group on Facebook. There's a growing community there. It's really growing. It's fun, and at first, when you start one of these things, you're not too sure how it's going to work out, but it's just now naturally growing, and like 5-10 people are getting suggested by Facebook every day. And I'm not even sure if that's a big number, but we just launched it not too long ago. So for me, it's great to see all these people coming in. And I know that's because this is one of the questions I'm asking when they come in before I approve them. And I made it a private group. So that's one way. If you're a mom and just want some mom resources, or you're expecting, or even for grandmas, like the Raising Little Ones, Louie and Leia Raising Little Ones Facebook group is a fantastic resource. Lots of moms in there share whether you're expecting or experienced. And then just on the website as well, the best way to connect is just to go to louieandleia.com. There's a contact button there, and there's a ton of free resources too. So even if you can't maybe buy a box for if you're in Australia or if you're in Europe yet, you can certainly download the free resources. That is going to help any mom there as well. And then the subscriptionboxshow.com. So that's the other place. It's just our website.
Excellent. I'm not in the Louie and Leia Facebook group, but for the subscription box Facebook group, I do love that one. I don't have a subscription box model, obviously, but I do see a lot of knowledge shared on there. It's not just you pumping out the information. There's a lot of people asking questions and putting out their own tips and tricks as well, which I think is really great, which, also you can kind of use for a service provider like I am as well. It's not just for products, but I know that the main focus is for products. So if anyone has a subscription, whether it's a membership type subscription for your like a membership for your website or something like that, or if you have a physical box that goes out to people, I would definitely check that out and connect with Eric either on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, wherever you hang out as well. He's very, very, very valuable.
Yeah, I love LinkedIn too, to be honest. It's a great spot for me. It's probably my favorite platform. Instagram, I feel I have one, especially like for Louie and Leia, it's huge. But for me, I feel like I have to be there, but it's not my favorite platform. I think I like Facebook groups and LinkedIn for sure. It's the best place to find me.
Excellent. Love that. Thank you so much for your time, Eric. I'm going to put your links in the show notes for anyone who is listening or watching. And other than that, thank you so much for your time, and I will chat to you soon.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for having me.